The audacity of she. Incisive conversations with women who are challenging the status quo to create wildly fulfilling lives. Plus, practical information you can apply to your life right now. Okay, let's talk about today's guest, Sunday Burquest. I met Sunday in 2017 in January when she attended my New Year retreat for women entrepreneurs, and I was immediately in love with her bubbly personality. Sunday has experienced some big shifts in her life in the past 5 years, so we'll chat about those today. In our conversation, you'll hear about how a breast cancer diagnosis flipped her life upside down. A mom of 4 children between the ages of 12 and 18, she had the difficult task of showing her children that cancer does not equal death because both her father and her father-in-law had passed away from cancer in the 7 years leading up to her diagnosis. You'll get a glimpse into the world of her cancer diagnosis, how she navigated relationships in entirely new terrain, how she managed all of the decisions upon decisions upon decisions that needed to be made at a time when she was feeling the most unclear, and how it feels to not be able to take care of a family the way you're used to. But you will also hear how Sunday used this experience to create an amazing experience for herself when she was a guest on Survivor, a participant in Survivor a year ago at the time of this recording, so 2016. You'll hear about how she stepped into a life that she would have otherwise not known had she not experienced this cancer scenario. We'll talk about hero moments, second baptisms, turning your hardest moments in your life into big, big blessings. If you're going through something in your life, I promise you'll love hearing Sunday's refreshing perspective. Listening to this interview, I cried and I also laughed. Sunday is such a cool lady, and I'm honored to share this conversation with you. Let's do it. Sunday, greetings. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that you're here with us today and really excited for this conversation.
Me too. I've been totally looking forward to it.
Yay. Okay, so I guess the decision was made about 2 years ago now, but tell us about the adventure that you went on a little over a year ago.
So, yeah, just about a year ago, Easter Sunday, I left for the island of Fiji to compete in Survivor season 33, which was Millennials versus Gen X. I still can't believe I got the chance to do it. It was a huge dream of mine, and I was gone for 7 weeks. And I did things I would have never imagined or pictured that I could do.
That is super cool. And you've been a big Survivor fan since the beginning, right?
Yes, we've watched as a family since the first season. So it's been, 33 seasons, 17 years that we've watched. And it was really something that brought my family together because it was one show that everybody liked and we all could connect and talk about.
Yeah, isn't it so hard finding one show for everyone, especially when your kids span different ages?
Oh, it's almost impossible. And thankfully, my kids are kind of crunched together a little bit. So it just became something that we always did every week. We're all going to sit down together, watch Survivor, and then talk about it all week until the next episode. So
That's cool. I love that. Now, okay, so this journey to Survivor really started just over 5 years ago because you just celebrated an anniversary here of a day that kind of changed your life. So let's talk about, what was that, April 11th, 2012.
Yes. That day, I was expecting a phone call that was going to be important. And I had a small business with my sister and sister-in-law. And we were repurposing painting furniture. And we were actually at a pole barn painting. And I went out to the car to wait for what I call the call. And the call came in, and the sweet nurse on the other line said, "Are you driving right now?" And I knew that was a bad sign. And she proceeded to tell me that I had been diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma. And my response was, okay. And she said, "No, do you understand I'm telling you have breast cancer?" And, it's basically, yep. "Are you sure you understand?" "Uh-huh." And I just didn't know how to respond. And of course, when I got off the phone, I fell apart. And all I could think about was, I have kids. I have kids and I have 4 kids. And I realize a lot of people get diagnosed with cancer with kids. But for me, that was my overwhelming concern and thought in dealing with the breast cancer. So we did end up going ahead and telling the kids, and I really didn't want to, because just a year earlier, my husband almost died, and he had emergency open heart surgery. And I felt like my kids had just gotten past that crisis, and which, made this all the more difficult, I felt like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, my kids were 12, 14, 16, and 18 at the time. So they were old enough to understand, the severity of what was going on. And we had actually lost my dad and my father-in-law to cancer within, the 7 years leading up to this. So in their experience, when someone got cancer, they died.
Wow.
And I was determined to show them that that was not going to happen this time. And I didn't want them coming in the door after school every day, seeing me sick and being constantly reminded my mom is sick, she might die.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
So
know,
how does when you get a diagnosis like that, how does that change you? Like how you look at the world and how you look at yourself now that you've got this diagnosis?
um, it's kind of multifaceted because it affects every relationship that you have a little bit differently. So how it affected dealing with my kids was not at all the same as how it affected, say, my marriage,
Hmm.
and how you navigate major changes in your body with a spouse, and how you navigate the emotional toll that it takes on you, the financial toll, the I just really don't know what to do. And him feeling exactly the same way, wanting to help me, but just really not knowing how to help me, and me not having the ability to verbalize to him what I needed him to do.
Mm.
So you're both trying to be there for each other, but neither of you know how to do it.
Sure. Wow.
And, it affected my friendships in that, most of my friends were very supportive. They had a huge benefit for me. There was, a lot of help that I received, but as time went on, it did get difficult for, some people that I wasn't as energetic as I had been in the past. I couldn't stay out as late as I used to. There was different side effects that came with the cancer that I just was not prepared for and that I was unaware of.
Sure. Wow. And then you mentioned too like it was hard to make decisions, but you had a lot of decisions to make during that period.
Yes, and that's another thing I was, really just ignorant about, was the amount of decisions I was going to have to make. I didn't realize it was going to have so many different doctors, so many different appointments, so many decisions, different offices, different, you got to go to this clinic for that, and the hospital for this, and find a doctor for this, and you got to find a, plastic surgeon, and you need to find oncology. I just wasn't aware. And navigating all of that when every decision feels life changing
Oh,
is,
absolutely.
is very overwhelming.
Hmm.
Do I do a double mastectomy? Do I do a single? Do I get chemo? Do I wait on chemo? Do I do radiation? Do I not do radiation? Do I try a clinical trial? Do I, wait? Do I do cold cap? There's just, I felt like it was kind of endless, the decisions that had to be made.
Absolutely. Yeah, within a year you mentioned that you said 7 or 8 surgeries.
Yes. And those weren't all big ones. They were adjustments to my reconstruction. Um, Basically, that's what they were. I had a really big surgery at the beginning. I had a double mastectomy, a lymph node dissection, which is typical. So while you're having your double mastectomy, they do go ahead and open up your lymph node area to check your lymph nodes while you're under. And they did find some cancer in my lymph nodes. And then a year later, you have your implants, put in the rest of the reconstructive surgery. And then from there, you have surgeries to adjust your plastic surgery because it's really difficult to rebuild your shape perfectly the first time.
Sure. Wow.
And at the beginning of the process, the cancer is the primary concern, right? And
Hmm.
it isn't until you get a little further down the line where you start to focus a little bit more on the actual reconstructive aspect and the look and the um, you know, making you feel like you look as good as you possibly can after the loss that you've experienced.
Sure. And you weren't, I mean, with the treatment, you did more than just the surgery. You also did chemotherapy and radiation, correct?
I did. I had 8 rounds of chemotherapy, and then they gave me, they had me wait like 6 weeks, and then I started radiation and did that for 28 days straight.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I worked in hospice and oncology for a number of years, so I've seen so up close and
Mm.
personally what impact that has, so I can understand what that process might have been like for you.
Yes, and you've seen it firsthand, so it's um, very overwhelming. And then you have your chemo and you feel terrible for a few days, and just when you start to feel like you're gonna start to feel better, you have to go back and do it again.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
mhm.
But you did that for 1 year, and then a year later, you were found cancer free.
Yes, about a year. It could be, almost up to a year and a half, somewhere in that time frame. But yes, I go in. It's like, okay, you're good. You're cancer free, and I was happy. It was like that's awesome.
Yeah, what was
But
that day like?
it was like I had mixed emotions because on one hand, I thought you should be so happy right now. He's telling you you don't have cancer anymore. But I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression from the breast cancer. And so in my mind, it was like, I was almost like hard on myself. Like, what's wrong with you? You should be so happy right now, and you're not.
Hmm.
But when you're dealing with anxiety and depression, it's not that you're not choosing to be depressed and anxious. So it's not like you can tell your brain, okay, you need to be happy now and forget the fact that you feel depressed. It doesn't work that way,
Yeah, yeah.
you
Mm.
know. And of course, it was good. I mean, it's better than hearing I still have cancer. But, for my everyday life, I still didn't feel like I was past it.
Yeah, you mentioned that even though the cancer wasn't there, it still had a hold on you.
Yes, and it was like being in a quicksand or something. Like I couldn't, I felt like I kept sinking and I couldn't get back to me. So it'd be like I was underground sinking and the level ground was me. And I'm trying to reach up to get to just level ground, just to be me again.
Mm.
And that was really difficult.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
you know, I've mentioned I had 4 kids and I wasn't doing laundry, I wasn't cooking, I wasn't cleaning the house. I just could not get myself to do any of those things. And I used to be like a freakazoid about everything in the house being in the exact perfect spot, all the laundry done at one time. I mean, just a weirdo. So then to go to this extreme where I just really did not care and I could not make myself do it. It was difficult.
Yeah, oh, I can only imagine, especially for an extended period of time. Just while my little guy was on spring break, I equated to the flu, and it had me on the couch for like a week. And that week was just the worst, to not be able to clean the house and do the dishes and
Hmm.
take him out to enjoy his spring break. And that was just 1 week.
Yeah. Yeah. It was hard. And my kids had to pick up a lot of slack. Now, I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. They learned how to do their own laundry and but for me it was difficult because I couldn't make myself. I wanted to make myself, just make yourself get up and do it, and I couldn't.
Mhm.
And that included working out. I mean, before I got diagnosed, I worked out 5-6 days a week for 15 years,
Wow.
and I could not get myself back in the habit of working out, and
Mm.
it was very frustrating.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Hmm.
Okay, but
Yeah.
then, so you get this news that the cancer is gone. You're still kind of dealing with the depression and anxiety, and then your son comes to you, right, with this idea.
Yes. So, like I said, we're big Survivor fans. And my oldest son comes to me and he's basically like, Mom, you got through cancer. I think that we should apply for Survivor. And at that time, it's kind of like, okay. At the time, they were casting for a season called Blood versus Water when you go on with a blood relative.
Okay.
And this isn't common. They do this every few years. And the funny thing is, like, probably 8 years prior to this, we were watching Survivor one night. And as a joke, kind of, I said, you know what? I'm going to be on the show someday. And I have three boys and they all laughed. Oh, right. You would make it one day, Mom. I'm like, okay, you little brats. But anyways, he comes to me, he's like, Mom, I think we should just go for it. And I was like, you know what? I think you're right. A lot of times if you're looking at reality TV and that kind of thing, they're looking to cast people with a story. And so now I have a story. And so we make an audition video, we send it in. I did get a call back. They were interested in having me make a new video with just me in it. And I think he was just a little too young at the time. He was only 19. And I did that, and it just really didn't go anywhere. So the next fall, I auditioned again, as did he. And I did get another call back this time. And then, it was just kind of, it went from there.
Okay, so then flash forward probably what, several
Mhm.
weeks or a couple months, and now
A
you're on
few months.
Fiji?
Yeah. So I think that the first phone call I got was probably the beginning of October. And I land in Fiji in, March of the next spring,
Wow.
which is crazy. And you get there and you have zero contact with your family. So they take your phone and it's like, okay, I don't get to contact my family for 7 weeks. And hear any news from them? Nothing. And I was most concerned about my daughter. My boy, two boys out of the house. The other one's like, he's a boy. So he wasn't too upset about it. And I was concerned about my daughter. And I left her a card to open every single day while I was gone, just to kind of, so she felt like she was connected to me or whatever. And yeah, we get there. They don't tell you the theme of the show. We were told when the game actually started is when Jeff Probst said, "Welcome to Survivor Millennials versus Gen X."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, everything in Survivor is a poker face. You don't want to show your cards, any of that kind of thing. Well, I wasn't going to tell anybody that I was actually a pastor of young adults. So I worked with millennials for a living at that time.
Okay.
So I'm on the inside like, yes, this is awesome. And on the outside, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's nice,
Mhm.
not trying to show my skill set. But yeah, so.
And you said being on Survivor that it's not like you have some lavish life once the cameras turn off. Like what you see on the TV is really how your life went for 30 some days.
Yes. Yes, it is exactly what you see on TV. We aren't whisked away to a hotel when the cameras leave. The cameras actually never leave. You're videoed, 24/7. And it is extremely real. I mean, there's no toilet paper, no toothpaste, no soap, no razors, no deodorant,
No
hardly
deodorant.
any, nothing, hardly any food. They give you a bag of rice and you have to ration it for the whole game. So it's pretty intense.
That is super intense. And I think just not having a pillow to sleep on at night.
The littlest things, like never having a towel, that was very weird to me
Huh.
because you have to go in the ocean all the time and you never have a towel. So I'm like, wow, I really like towels now.
I bet you do.
Yeah.
Okay, so while you were
So,
there, while you were on the
mhm.
island, you had one really special day, April 11th of 2016.
Yes. So I happened to be there and be participating in an immunity challenge. And it was the day of my diagnosis, the anniversary of the day of my diagnosis. So here I get diagnosed 4 years later. I am by myself competing in an immunity challenge on Survivor. It almost seems not real that this all lined up this way. But we did win our challenge that day. And I had told the producers in my confessional ahead of time, like, winning today is like kicking cancer in the butt.
Yeah, because tell us about that challenge. You shared
So,
this process, and I found it just fascinating how you went into it and then how you came out of that challenge.
okay. So, first of all, let me say this. When I left for the show, I, in my mind, had decided I wanted to leave and come back different. And I didn't really know how to describe what that meant, but I did know I was still hanging on to some of this leftover cancer stuff. So, this day we do the challenge on the day of the diagnosis. We're on a floating platform in the middle of the ocean. What I have to do is swim to a second platform, climb 10 feet up a cargo net, jump off the platform 10 feet in the air, grabbing a key, falling into the water, and swim to another platform. And when Jeff Probst explains it to us, he says, for those of you that do this part of the challenge, it is your hero moment. Jumping into the ocean 10 feet high, this is your hero moment, and it's going to be a great camera shot. But I didn't really care about the camera shot. I was just like, hero moment. I want a hero moment. And, I did the challenge. I did well. I went quick, climbed up the cargo net, jumped off, got the key, swam to my next thing. And it was exhilarating. But it wasn't until I watched it back that fall that I realized that the day I jumped in that water, I took the after effects of cancer with me, and they didn't come back out of the water. And I felt like it was almost a baptism of sorts. Like I went in the water one way with all this leftover junk, and I came out and it was gone.
That's exactly what I thought of when I saw the video where you talked about that. Is
Yeah.
second baptism immediately is what came to mind.
Yes. And I didn't realize it till I watched it. I mean, I did it, but sometimes you don't realize everything that's going on, and you're not maybe in touch with yourself emotionally or those kinds of things. So it really took watching it and the help of a doctor that I've been able to talk to since the show to really understand that, yeah, you did bring it with you, the after effects of cancer, and you left him in the ocean that day. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's so powerful.
Yep. So, that was a great moment. I shared it with my tribe mates, and it never made the air. But that's okay. I was, I made it in the game to day 35 out of 39 and came in 7th place. And I was actually really proud of myself.
Yeah, absolutely. 35
yeah.
days on Fiji with no amenities.
Nothing. And, when I left, the kids were like, Mom, whatever you do not get voted out first. That was my biggest fear. And I didn't get voted out first, and I didn't get voted out second or third or fourth or fifth, So it was pretty amazing. I feel really, really, really blessed that I got the chance to do it.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love that. And then now, so since you've come back from Survivor, you've started really telling your story, yes?
Yes. And, I believe that everything that we happen to in life that's negative or positive, but I'm talking about negative right now, I believe you can locate something positive out of the situation, and then you can turn that situation around and use it for your good somehow. And it doesn't always happen right away, but I do think that if you're looking for it, you can find a way to use it for something good. And so, I'm sharing my story in the hopes that it just inspires someone, brings hope to other women that are being diagnosed or family members that are dealing with someone with cancer, that, just not to give up, and that you can do something positive with the hand that you were dealt at some point. And it takes time. It took me 4 years to get there. It's not a magic thing. It's not like you wake up in the morning and go, okay, I'm going to do something good with that today. No, you have that healing time and that downtime. And then eventually, if you're looking for it, I feel like the opportunity will present itself. And that's what I feel like is happening for me right now.
Yeah, so you looked for the opportunity and you let it change you, because it's really changed your whole life since that initial diagnosis.
Absolutely. It really has. And it's funny because sometimes I think, wow, what would my life be like if I hadn't got diagnosed? And it's not that I'm glad that I did or I would ask for it again, but there's a lot of things and doors that are opening and things I'm being able to do that I would not be able to do had that not happened in my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So now I'm getting the chance to share my story, and the goal is, to travel and speak and get as many places as I can and inspire people and, possibly help family members and caregivers understand how to support someone with cancer, support women, there's just a lot of different avenues right now. It's kind of the process of narrowing down my focus even. But the heart behind everything I want to communicate is really that you can overcome your setbacks and you can use them for something good.
Yes, I love that. And then there was one thing that you said. You said, I'm nothing special or great. I just decided, and you can do the same thing. And I absolutely
Mhm.
loved that because I think sometimes people see other people doing such amazing things and they think, well, but that person must be like special or different in some
Mhm.
way. And that's just not true.
Absolutely. It's not true at all. There is nothing. I mean, we're all special in our own way, right? We know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But there is no skill set, no rich family, no, anything that is making this happen other than the fact that I decided, you know what? I'm not going to let cancer be what defines me the rest of my life. I'm
Mm,
going to turn the tables on cancer. And instead of it controlling my life, I'm going to control it.
mm.
And I do that by using it to, inspire other women. Maybe my story, causes them to get a mammogram when they hadn't yet and catch it early, or, whatever it is. And it applies, really, the principle applies to any setback, not just cancer.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a divorce, a bankruptcy, a family loss, any number of things. But the heart of the message doesn't change based on the circumstance.
Yeah, it's just having that courage to really go through the thing with an open heart and to say yes to the opportunities that arise because of it.
Yes, and like I said, it's not like it happened in one day. It's not like I got up one morning, it's like, okay, I am awesome, and I have so much courage, and my life is going to be 100% better from now on. That it was gradual, and it was little things, and it was people encouraging me, and it was a step back and then two steps forward and then a step back, and it's been a process. But I think that that's okay, because then you can identify with and have compassion and empathy for people that are in the same situation.
Mm, I love that. I just love that. Oh, Sunday.
Oh, Dana.
I don't
Oh,
have any other questions for you. I think you told your story so beautifully. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
that's just the message. Just look for it. You don't have to be anybody special. Just look for it, and you will move past it, and you will be able to use it for something good in your life.
Perfect. Okay, so tell somebody or tell everyone who wants to stay in touch with you now after the show how they can find you.
So if you can go to my website, sundayburquest.com, and that's Burquest, and you can enroll there and get an email twice a month and follow the journey. And I'd like to connect with you, anyone that wants to connect with me. And also my social media is at Sunday Survivor. Pretty
Okay.
simple.
All right,
Yeah.
great. Sunday, thank you so much. I'm so honored you came on the show.
Yeah. No, I'm honored you asked. Thank you, Dana.
Did today's topic inspire you, encourage you, or challenge you to look at your own processes in a different way? Join us in our Facebook group to continue the conversation. It's where all the good stuff happens after the show. It's theaudacityofshe.com/Facebook. Again, that's theaudacityofshe.com/Facebook. See you there.